There has been much speculation about the two alleged offenders and their travel to the Philippines. I can confirm the two individuals who we allege are responsible for the terror attack at Bondi Beach on 14 December this year spent almost a month in the Philippines. The initial assessment from the Philippine National Police is that the individuals rarely left their hotel, and there is no evidence to suggest they received training or underwent logistical preparation for their alleged attack. What this points to, and I will again advise this is a point-in-time assessment, is that these individuals are alleged to have acted alone. There is no evidence to suggest these alleged offenders were part of a broader terrorist cell or were directed by others to carry out an attack.
New details emerged in Australia's deadliest mass shooting in nearly 30 years, as police reveal a crucial finding in the Bondi Beach terror investigation. Authorities now say the gunman behind the anti-Semitic attack acted alone, with no evidence of direction, training, or command from a wider terror network. The revelation comes after intense scrutiny of the attacker's overseas movements and suspected extremist links. Australian Federal Police say Naveed Akram and his father Sajid Akram were not part of a broader militant cell when they opened fire at a Hanukkah celebration on Sydney's Bondi Beach on December 14th. AFP Commissioner Chrissy Barrett said there was no indication the men received formal training or operational support during the trip. She said there was no evidence the attackers were directed by others or acting under instructions from any organized terrorist group.
Since two offenders allegedly launched a terrorist attack against Jewish Australians at Bondi Beach, and over the past 2 weeks, the New South Wales Joint Counter-Terrorism Team has worked methodically to not only charge a person for the alleged terror attack, but more broadly, the AFP and our partners have worked tirelessly to identify and target others who may try to leverage from this heinous, hate-filled crime. One man who we allege was inspired by ISIS is before the courts, which limits what information I can provide or what I can say. However, the Jewish community and the broader Australian public deserves reassurance and answers about how this happened. Given impending court processes and other security matters, I can't provide all the details that we have, but I want to provide some information that goes to broader questions and concerns. I want to underscore that the update I give today is our initial assessment. It's a point in time. The AFP and our partners still have significant investigative work to undertake, and it is possible that new information or evidence may be forthcoming as part of that. There has been much speculation about the two alleged offenders and their travel to the Philippines. I can confirm the two individuals who we allege are responsible for the terror attack at Bondi Beach on 14 December this year spent almost a month in the Philippines. Travel records show they left Sydney for Manila on 1 November 2025 and on the same day travelled to Davao City. They arrived back in Sydney from the Philippines on 29 November 2025. The initial assessment from the Philippine National Police is that the individuals rarely left their hotel, and there is no evidence to suggest they received training or underwent logistical preparation for their alleged attack. CCTV footage capturing their stay in the Philippines has been provided to the AFP, and we are currently reviewing that material. What this points to, and I will again advise this is a point-in-time assessment, is that these individuals are alleged to have acted alone. There is no evidence to suggest these alleged offenders were part of a broader terrorist cell or were directed by others to carry out an attack. However, I want to be clear, I am not suggesting that they were there for tourism. An AFP analyst deployed to the Philippines after the attack to support our members who are based in Manila and work very closely with the Philippine National Police. I want to thank the Philippine National Police for their cooperation in assisting with our investigation. Without their swift response, much of the CCTV footage that is now under review by our investigators would not have been available. We have been working with the Philippine National Police to counter terrorism in our region for decades, and their assistance during the past fortnight has been absolutely crucial. Countering extremism and radicalisation is critical to helping keep Australia and our region safe. Since I became Commissioner, most of my public comments have centred on how the AFP is targeting radicalisation and extremism. I established our flying squad of hate disruptors who focus on high harm, high impact, politically motivated violence, communal violence and hate crimes that do not meet the threshold for terrorism investigations but drive fear and division. And again, I take the opportunity to reiterate that the AFP has had ongoing investigations for some time into those who corrupt Islam in their radical recruitment drive for hatred and fear. We have gone through the sermons line by line, sought out experts and legal advice on charging those who we believe are inciting hatred towards the Jewish community. The AFP welcomes the federal government's plans to strengthen hate speech laws. I remain concerned about vulnerable adults and youth who are susceptible or open to manipulation by religious and other extremists who encourage violence or desensitise violence. Radicalisation and extremism can provide a pipeline of recruits to terror groups who are willing to use violence to advance their cause. The AFP will be visible and vocal on those we charge, and importantly, the work of the National Security Investigations teams to disrupt early and to deter and prevent violence. We won't put a time limit on our vigilance. We will be here every day to help keep Australians safe. Thank you.
Initial investigation suggests the Akrams weren't trained in the Philippines. Have you got any lines of investigation or evidence that they were being supported here in Australia? And are you willing to testify before a New South Wales Royal Commission in person?
I'll answer the first part of your question first in relation to the Akrams. That is part of our ongoing investigation, so I won't talk too much about that. As I said in my statement, we do have a matter before court, and my number one priority is protecting that prosecution as well as protecting the Jewish community. We need to be able to let the investigators do the work that they need to do. In relation to your second question, we will cooperate in any inquiry that we are asked to.
I've also got a question for the Commissioner and perhaps Minister Burke, if I may. Given the history of the Philippines being a harbour for potential terror cells, does there need to be any further looking into people who are travelling to the Philippines from Australia? Is that part of your considerations in terms of those investigations? And you also mentioned that you're going through some of the sermons and some of these concerning preachers line by line. Have you found anything concerning so far?
Again, I'll answer the first part of that question first. As I said in my statement, we have worked with the Philippine National Police for many, many years, specifically on counter-terrorism and our joint efforts there. And of course, there is a lot of information sharing between relevant agencies, both in the Philippines and Australia, that has been occurring for decades. So that I think the importance of that and the relationships we've built have really come to the fore, and we see how effective and how important the cooperation with the Philippine National Police has been over the last couple of weeks. And my apologies, can you please ask the second question?
The second, you said that you were going through sermons line by line of some of these concerning preachers. Have you found anything concerning?
So firstly, can I say we've been focused on these hate preachers and their sermons for a long time, over the last few years. This is not something that has started in the last few weeks. That is something that has been a very high priority of mine and a very high priority of our Operation Avalite and now our National Security Investigations teams. We have, as I said, gone through line by line. We have sought legal advice and expert advice. At this point in time, we don't have any active prosecutions underway. That's not to say that we don't have ongoing investigations, and of course with the new legislation that we will have available to us, that will be very helpful in terms of putting matters before the court.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has vowed the Bondi attack must never be allowed to happen again. He said the Richardson Review would urgently examine whether information gaps or legal barriers prevented authorities from stopping the attackers earlier.
In announcing the terms of reference yesterday for the Dennis Richardson Review, you said in your words that there had been extensive consultation. Can you talk us through what that involved and who it involved, and what the engagement was with the victims' families?
Well, we have engaged with Mr. Richardson and with members of the community I have gone through a range of meetings that I have had, including in recent days. We wanted to make sure, when we come to the references, that Mr Richardson will consider what the agencies knew about the alleged offenders before the attack, the information sharing between the Commonwealth and state agencies, what judgments were made and actions taken by agencies, whether there were any additional measures that Commonwealth agencies could have taken, whether Commonwealth agencies were prevented from taking prohibitive actions by the current legislative framework, and that's important to feed into if there are any further legislative changes which are needed, and then what additional measures should be taken by relevant Commonwealth agencies to prevent similar attacks occurring in the future, including the whole framework is about that. The whole framework, I note the front page of the Oz today, but the whole framework of this review is about that, by Dennis Richardson. And what we need to do at this time is to look at ways in which we can have our common humanity and our common interest. This is an atrocity that was opposed by overwhelmingly all but a minuscule element in our society. And what we need to do, and my job as the leader, as the Prime Minister, is to bring the country together, not to seek to divide, not to seek differentiation, but to seek common interest. And that is what I continue to do. That is what I will continue to do as well, because that is the responsibility that I have. Easy options of looking into the past, if you look at the dates in which occurrences have occurred. 1998, a visa granted. 2000 and 2001, those visas adjusted. 2013, the first granting of a gun licence. 2019, an investigation by ASIO into the younger Akram. All of these issues we should not play politics with. What we should do is go to the heart of what occurred, and importantly, how do we make sure that this never happens again, and how do we make sure that the Jewish community feel safe? Because they have every right in this country to practice their faith openly, and to, in the case of the Hanukkah event, as Rabbi Ullman has said, one of the things that they've done every year is invite other people, Jewish and non-Jewish, to that event to celebrate Hanukkah, which is the victory of light over dark. Now, I am absolutely determined, as is my government, as is, I believe, overwhelmingly the people in Australian society, determined to see a victory of light over dark, to not look for the darkness and celebrate that, to crush the darkness, to push it into oblivion, and to celebrate light and going forward. Now, the Australian Covenant, which has been the basis of particularly our post-war period, is that when people enter into Australia and go through the customs hall, they leave any prejudices and any hatreds in that hall, and they celebrate Australia, who we are, modern Australia, and respect each other and respect our common humanity. That's what I want to see, and everything that my government will do is determined to do that.